Zhou Wutai left, holding half a flask of wine, leaving behind a jade slip. Wang Lin remained silent for a while, then picked up the jade slip. His divine sense swept over it, and as time passed, his expression gradually darkened. The inside of Lu Mei, the illusory heartless path, beneath the many layers of affection, it contains a heart devoid of emotion. I had already sensed this back then. If Lu Mei dares to provoke me again, I have ways to break her insight. Wang Lin pinched his fingers, shattering the jade slip. He stood up, walked into the ancient teleportation array, activated the formation, and vanished from the place. The Chu Kingdom was the closest place to the Immortal Remnant clan. Here, there were naturally many members of the Immortal Remnant clan. The Yuntian sect of the Chu Kingdom had fallen years ago, right when the Immortal Remnant clan first appeared. It became a vassal of the Immortal Remnant clan, with all cultivators within the sect having runes implanted in their bodies. Fortunately, the mortal world wasn't greatly affected. Only some villages near cultivation sects were caught in the Immortal Remnant clan's attacks, their people affected by their spells. The Immortal Remnant clan didn't actively slaughter mortals, except for taking children with the potential to cultivate immortality. On this day, Wang Lin stepped out of a teleportation array in the western part of the Chu Kingdom. The sky of the Chu Kingdom was dim. It was daytime, yet the sunlight seemed absorbed by the black mist in the sky, casting no light at all. Looking around, it seemed no different from night. Especially the giant plant that rose from the deep pit in the immortal ruins, piercing the sky. Observing it up close, its immense aura filled the air, evoking a sense of insignificance in those who gazed upon it. Members of the Immortal Remnant clan flashed across the sky from time to time, followed by several cultivators. These cultivators bore rune marks on their bodies, their eyes dull and lifeless. Apart from them, the land of Chu Kingdom was now filled with strange plants. These plants wriggled unnaturally, growing rapidly like algae. The Chu Kingdom had changed drastically since Wang Lin last left. The operation of the teleportation array had caught the attention of the Immortal Remnant clan. Almost as soon as Wang Lin appeared, a large black mist surged from the horizon. In the mist, the figures of 7 or 8 spell curse masters emerged. Upon seeing Wang Lin, they immediately activated the runes in their bodies and rushed toward him. Wang Lin remained calm, not even glancing at these spell curse masters. With a flick of his body, he vanished from the spot. When he reappeared, he was in the village where Zhou Ru was born. The place was scorched earth, with seaweed-like plants over a person's height swaying in the wind. There was no sign of human life left. Wang Lin remained silent for a long time, sighed softly, and turned to leave. He didn't go to Yuntian's sect. He was not a saint. If he were to undo the rune power within Yuntian's sect, it would not help them. In fact, it could very likely provoke the Immortal Remnant clan's massacre. As he flew across the Chu Kingdom, Wang Lin saw many members of the Immortal Remnant clan, but most were of the 4-leaf variety, with very few possessing 5 leaves. Wang Lin had originally planned to leave this place and go to the outer domain battlefield to collect wandering souls. But at this moment, his heart stirred. The majority of the Immortal Remnant clan are concentrated on Vermilion Bird Continent. There must not be many left in the Immortal Ruins. Last time I entered the Immortal Ruins, I only reached the 3rd level. Over the course of tens of thousands of years, the Immortal Remnant clan must have accumulated a great deal. Now, since I am about to leave Vermilion Birdstar, I should explore it for the future. Wang Lin's eyes flashed, and after a brief moment of contemplation, he moved toward the deep pit of the Immortal Remnant clan. His speed was immense, and in no time, he arrived at the edge of the deep pit. The enormous plant that pierced the sky emitted a heavy aura. It was so large that it completely covered the pit, making it impossible to enter. Wang Lin stood at the foot of the colossal plant, looking no larger than an ant. He looked up at the massive plant, and suddenly his expression shifted. He made a hand gesture, and in an instant, his figure vanished. Moments later, a faint ghostly light flickered on the giant plant, and a 5-leaf spell curse master emerged. His body transformed into a mass of black mist and flew off into the distance. After he left, Wang Lin reappeared. His eyes flashed as he pointed forward with his right hand, sending a stream of spiritual light hurtling toward the enormous plant. When the light touched the plant, it immediately shattered and dissipated into countless crystal-like sparks. Interesting. A cold smile appeared on Wang Lin's lips. He slapped his storage pouch, and a wooden sculpture appeared in his hand. He tapped it with his right hand and softly murmured, "Transform." The wooden sculpture shook, glowing with a green light. In the blink of an eye, the green light transformed into a human shape, solidifying rapidly. After a few breaths, a clone identical to Wang Lin appeared. This was a divine ability that could only be mastered by cultivators in the infant metamorphosis stage, object incarnation. Once the clone appeared, it wasted no time and charged straight toward the enormous plant that covered the entire pit. Wang Lin's gaze never wavered as he fixed his eyes on the clone. The moment the clone touched the massive plant, several black symbols immediately flickered on the thick branches of the plant. In the blink of an eye, the symbols transformed into black threads, rapidly burrowing into the clone's body at an astonishing speed. The clone trembled, its eyes dimmed instantly, and it reverted into a wooden sculpture, crashing to the ground. Wang Lin's eyes flickered as he thought to himself, no wonder the Immortal Remnant clan had to come out in force. This strange plant must be guarding the place, making it impossible for ordinary people to enter. After a brief silence, Wang Lin slapped his storage pouch with his right hand, and a golden soul banner instantly appeared in his grasp. This was not the Billion Soul banner, but the one with the Kirin beast as the primary soul. Wang Lin had 3 soul banners in total. One was the Billion Soul banner, another was the 1,000 soul banner with the Kirin remnant soul as the main soul, and the last one, which was more ordinary, was one that Wang Lin had personally crafted back in the day, also a 1,000 soul banner. Waving the soul banner, a core formation soul floated out, and with a thought from Wang Lin, the soul immediately flew toward the massive plant. Wang Lin's eyes gleamed as he observed the soul. To his surprise, the soul seemed to face no obstruction, effortlessly passing through the plant. Throughout the entire process, no symbols flickered on the plant. Wang Lin's eyes flashed with sharp insight. He then took out several more souls and tried again, but they also passed through the plant without any resistance. Interesting, Wang Lin mused. The plant blocks spiritual energy and wooden sculptures, but it allows souls to pass through freely. This plant is truly fascinating. Waving the soul banner in his hand, over 2,000 souls, including the Kirin remnant soul, immediately surged out. With a thought, Wang Lin gathered the souls around him, forming a suit of armor made of souls, tightly encasing his body. Among them, the Kirin remnant soul attached to Wang Lin's face, forming a Kirin totem that radiated golden light. Without hesitation, Wang Lin moved his body and charged toward the massive plant. This time, he felt a cold sensation sweep over his body, and then, in an instant, he passed through the plant and entered its interior. Inside the plant, there was a crystalline world. The deep pit that had been there was now emitting black smoke, continuously rising and being absorbed by the plant. The surroundings were silent. Wang Lin looked up and saw that as he moved higher along the plant's inner walls, the crystal radiance grew brighter, extending all the way to the top, which was too high to see clearly. He could only make out numerous branch-like cavities, which seemed to be the scattered branches of the enormous plant. Looking down, he saw the familiar deep pit, now shrouded in darkness, with black mist surging upward. Wang Lin pondered for a moment, then leapt into the pit. The sound of rushing wind echoed in his ears as he quickly descended to the first layer. Before his body could hit the ground, he vanished in an instant. With his cultivation at the early infant metamorphosis stage, Wang Lin's divine sense and teleportation range had expanded greatly. A single teleportation brought him to the entrance leading from the first to the second layer. As his divine sense swept across the area, he found only a few spell curse masters, each at around the 3-leaf stage. Without hesitation, Wang Lin entered the second layer and, after another teleportation, soon arrived at the third layer, the place where he had once refined the samsara fruit with the elders of the artifact refining pavilion. This place was empty, with only a small pit on the ground, which was where the samsara tree had once grown. After a brief glance around, Wang Lin disappeared again, and this time he appeared at the entrance to the fourth layer. As soon as he materialized, his expression shifted slightly, and he concealed his presence. Before long, a giant human face appeared in the distance. Upon reaching the fourth layer's entrance, the enormous face suddenly exploded into a 6-leaf spell curse master. This middle-aged man had symbols and runes painted all over his body, and behind him followed more than a dozen cultivators with vacant eyes. The 6-leaf spell curse master leaped from the entrance, and his followers immediately followed suit. Wang Lin's eyes flashed as he silently trailed behind them, entering the fourth layer undetected. The fourth layer had more light compared to the previous 3. When the 6-leaf spell curse master arrived, his body once again transformed into a human face, and with a roll of his power, he enveloped all the cultivators in black mist, flying off into the distance. Wang Lin, too, was hidden beneath the black mist. With his cultivation, The six-leaf spell Curse Master didn't detect a thing. The six-leaf spell Curse Master moved at incredible speed, and after a short incense stick of time, they arrived at the center of the fourth layer, where a samsara tree stood, roughly 3 zhang tall and as wide as a person. However, this tree was somewhat strange. It had no branches or leaves. Above it floated an oval-shaped light sphere, within which sat an old man. His eyes were tightly shut, his body completely naked, and a fist-sized wound was visible on his chest. Nearly every part of his body was covered in runes. On his forehead, an 8-leafed plant flickered slowly. At the same time, above his head hovered a rune emitting a faint aura of ancient weariness. The rune was extremely complex, dizzying to look at. Below the tree, more than 10 six-leaf spellmasters were seated in silence. These individuals did not speak to each other, and behind them, each carried a group of over 10 cultivators. Given his cultivation level, it was impossible for anyone here to notice him, except for the 8-leaf spellmaster meditating on the samsara tree. Only he had the ability to sense Wang Lin. Wang Lin immediately saw that the 8-leaf spellmaster was heavily injured and extremely weak. At that moment, the 6-leaf spellmasters surrounding the samsara tree all crossed their legs and began chanting complex, incomprehensible incantations. At the same time, runes surged across their bodies, eventually breaking free and floating in midair. The cultivators behind them, with dazed expressions, started walking toward the samsara tree and sat cross-legged beneath it. There were hundreds of cultivators, densely packed under the tree. Wang Lin had already noticed that these cultivators all had the same cultivation level, core formation. As soon as these hundreds of cultivators sat down, the 6-leaf spellmasters shouted in unison. The sound, both loud and eerie, caused the runes floating around them to charge madly toward the samsara tree. In the blink of an eye, the runes merged into the tree and disappeared. Then, the samsara tree suddenly shook, and numerous soft branches rapidly sprouted from the trunk. These branches moved like long snakes, quickly spreading out and wrapping around the cultivators. In an instant, every cultivator beneath the tree was bound by countless branches, which lifted them into the air. This scene was extremely strange in Wang Lin's eyes. The over 10-meter-tall samsara tree now seemed alive, with countless branches extending, each one binding a cultivator. The tree swayed and wriggled as if it had a life of its own. "He's healing." Wang Lin's eyes flashed. He saw several runes appear on the samsara tree. In an instant, every cultivator bound by the branches trembled violently. Their flesh and blood essence shrank rapidly at a visible speed, and their spiritual energy surged out uncontrollably, flowing through the branches and into the samsara tree. After being absorbed by the tree, the flesh essence and spiritual energy underwent a strange transformation, turning into an extraordinary power that quickly flowed into the 8-leaf spellmaster, aiding in his recovery. The wound on the 8-leaf spellmaster's chest began to close, and his aura slowly recovered. Wang Lin's eyes glinted coldly. In the next moment, he moved like an illusory shadow, unseen by the 6-leaf spellmasters, and appeared beside the 8-leaf spellmaster on the samsara tree. His speed was lightning fast. As soon as he appeared, his right hand was raised, striking toward the halo enveloping the 8-leaf elder. A faint white light flickered from his hand, a clear manifestation of immortal power. When he struck, he did so without mercy, striking with full force. The 8-leaf elder inside the halo suddenly opened his eyes, revealing a hint of shock. Wang Lin's palm struck the halo, creating an earth-shattering boom that echoed throughout the fourth layer. The powerful shockwave sent waves of air rippling outward, knocking the 6-leaf spellmasters several hundred meters away, each spitting blood. The runic power within their bodies became unstable, and they couldn't recover in the short term. If they weren't careful, they would die. Infant Metamorphosis Cultivator. One of the 6-leaf spellmasters shrieked after coughing up blood. As soon as these words were spoken, the other 6-leaf spellmasters shuddered. Without a second thought, they sprang to their feet and fled. Before Wang Lin reached the infant metamorphosis stage, he could not have unleashed such a powerful strike without relying on any magical artifact. This strike was nearly equivalent to a punch from the ancient 3-star god in his true form. The power of an infant metamorphosis cultivator lies in their use of immortal power. The halo surrounding the 8-leaf elder shattered instantly. The elder trembled and spat out a mouthful of blood. The ancient runes above his head flashed and appeared beside him, blocking the incoming immortal power. A vast force emanated from the runes, slightly slowing the momentum of Wang Lin's strike. After a brief moment, The eight-leaf elder immediately let out a loud roar, his body explosively retreating, fleeing as fast as a shooting star. You can't escape. A cold glint flashed in Wang Lin's eyes as he pressed his palm downward, slamming it onto the samsara ancestral spirit tree. Furious and wild spiritual energy roared out, diving into the tree. A series of cracking sounds echoed from within, and in the next instant, the tree exploded with a deafening boom, breaking apart into countless shards of wood. The branches extending from its trunk immediately snapped one by one, and the bodies of hundreds of cultivators fell from the sky. The moment they hit the ground, their eyes cleared, and the confusion that had plagued them vanished in an instant. "Leave here," Wang Lin quickly said, his body moving like lightning as he charged after the fleeing eight-leaf elder. At the same time, he tapped his storage pouch, summoning the mosquito beast, which appeared in midair. Having been with Wang Lin for many years, the mosquito beast had gained intelligence and knew its master's intent without being told. After appearing, the mosquito beast immediately let out a sharp cry, turning into a black lightning bolt as it charged at one of the fleeing six-leaf spellmasters. With its massive mandibles, it stabbed directly into the man's head. A swift suck, and the man let out a dreadful scream as his body rapidly shriveled, ultimately turning into nothing but skin and bones before dying completely. After finishing one, the mosquito beast wasted no time, tossing the dried corpse aside, and rushed towards the next target. With its speed, no matter how fast these six-leaf spellmasters ran, they could not outpace it. Among the core formation cultivators who survived the ordeal, one recognized Wang Lin and immediately shouted with joy, "Primordial Master!" Wang Lin glanced back at the person who called him Primordial Master. The person seemed somewhat unfamiliar, but Wang Lin didn't inquire further. With a flash, he pursued the escaping eight-leaf elder. Though all this may seem long, it actually happened in the blink of an eye. Wang Lin's figure shot forward like thunder, his speed incredible. Ahead, the eight-leaf elder, pale-faced, gritted his teeth and fled. He had once been a powerful eight-leaf spellmaster beside the fifth ancestor, holding an elder's position and great authority even in the Immortal Remnant clan. Countless cultivators had died at his hands during the Immortal Remnant clan's descent into the world. A month ago, he was injured by a late infant metamorphosis cultivator from the Vermilion Bird Kingdom, almost dying. He was sent back here to heal, using the samsara ancestral spirit tree. However, he hadn't expected that during his healing process, a metamorphosis cultivator would appear. If I can just make it to the 11th layer, I'll be saved. When the third ancestor was injured by the Vermilion Bird Patriarch while guarding the ancestral spirit tree, he was treated there. If I can get there, the third ancestor will definitely come to my aid. The eight-leaf elder gritted his teeth and hurried towards the entrance to the fifth layer. Wang Lin pursued relentlessly behind him, his gaze cold and sharp. He tapped his storage pouch, and the immortal sword appeared in his hand. Taking a deep breath, Wang Lin infused his spiritual energy into the sword. "Die!" Wang Lin uttered coldly, raising his right hand. The sword blazed with a dazzling white light. With one slash, it was as if the heavens and earth were being torn apart. The entire ground of the fourth layer trembled violently as the sword's beam transformed into a massive light shadow, instantly whizzing forward. The eight-leaf elder's face changed drastically. Even before he turned around, he could already feel the terrifying aura approaching from behind. If he hadn't been injured, he might have been able to resist, but now, his strength was depleted, and he was running on empty. With a bitter cry, the elder spun around, his eyes showing madness. As the sword beam, filled with spiritual power, hurtled toward him, he slapped his forehead and shouted, "Ancestral talisman." The complex and ancient talisman, which had been floating on his forehead to block Wang Lin's earlier strike, suddenly appeared in front of him. This talisman exuded a powerful and mysterious aura. Wang Lin's eyes were icy cold as he stopped 100 feet away. The sword beam and the talisman collided in an explosive crash. Boom! A deafening roar sounded, sending a shockwave 3 yards high, sweeping across the surroundings and gouging deep trenches in the earth. The ancestral talisman cracked with several loud pops, and the eight-leaf elder's eyes dimmed as his breath rapidly faded. Blood poured from the gaping wound on his chest. Though his eyes lacked focus, his malicious intent was clear as he glared at Wang Lin and hissed, "Who are you? I won't tell you." Wang Lin's body flashed, appearing beside the elder in an instant. He made a gesture with his hand and sent a mark into the elder's body. Then, he pushed the immortal sword forward. The elder's head was instantly severed from his body and gripped in Wang Lin's hand. The elder's body collapsed to the ground with a heavy thud. Wang Lin pressed his finger onto the forehead of the severed head, frowning after a moment. No soul. When he decapitated the elder, he had already used the soul-refining sect's secret technique, ensuring that the soul remained trapped within the head even after death. He pondered for a moment, glancing at the severed head. With a wave of his right hand, a ball of ghost flame immediately enveloped the head. A hissing sound rang out as the flesh and blood of the old man's head were instantly refined. However, the skull remained intact under the ghost flame, with no signs of melting. It seemed as though a black symbol was branded onto the skull as if seared there. This symbol was identical to the ancestral talisman the old man had just released. After a brief moment of thought, Wang Lin stored the head in his storage pouch. His body moved swiftly as he sped toward the distance. As he flew, a series of breaking wind sounds reached his ears. The mosquito beast flashed into view, its massive mandibles dripping with fresh blood, its gaze gleaming with delight. After collecting the mosquito beast, Wang Lin swept through the 4th layer without encountering any more samsara trees, before finally entering the 5th layer. The plants in this layer swayed gently, as if they contained some kind of rule. If one stared at them for too long, their body would involuntarily begin to move along with the plants. In the 5th layer, Wang Lin's divine sense detected 3 samsara trees. On each of these trees, an 8-leaf spell curse master was healing their wounds, each in critical condition, on the verge of death. A cold light flashed in Wang Lin's eyes as his body vanished in an instant, teleporting to one of the trees. However, just as he arrived beside the samsara tree, his expression shifted. Without hesitation, he vanished and reappeared 100 meters away. At the spot where he had been standing, the algae plants on the ground suddenly began to spread in a strange manner. In the instant Wang Lin disappeared, the plants slammed into the spot where he had been standing. Immediately, all the algae plants across the 5th layer began to grow abnormally, intertwining with each other, forming humanoid creatures. These beings, composed entirely of algae plants, emitted a strange aura. Their lower limbs were connected to the algae plants, and they slithered into the air, quickly surrounding Wang Lin. "Outsider, leave this place." A voice, indistinguishable as male or female, echoed from these creatures, reverberating across the space. A cold gleam flickered in Wang Lin's eyes. These strange beings each possessed cultivation equivalent to the nascent soul stage. He had no time to engage with them, so without a word, he slapped his storage pouch, instantly wielding the billion soul banner. "Soul, scatter," Wang Lin murmured. Souls howled out from the banner, densely enveloping the surroundings. The banner's souls numbered only around 600 million, with the primary souls, including Dun Tian, reduced to 26. These souls merged, unable to form a peak stage soul, nor even a mid-stage one, but it was still possible to condense a nascent stage soul. Wang Lin knew he had to act swiftly and decisively. He would not delay, so he immediately summoned the billion soul banner. "Merge," Wang Lin commanded. 500 million souls, along with several primary souls, fused together in an instant, coalescing into a powerful soul exuding immense pressure. The moment this soul appeared, the entire 5th layer trembled. The remaining souls and primary souls spiraled around Wang Lin, howling in anguish. Wang Lin knew this nascent stage soul would not last long. With a thought, he shouted, "Kill." The nascent stage soul's eyes flashed. Its body suddenly moved, and with a casual wave of its right hand, the entire ground trembled. All the algae plants in the area were immediately swept away as if cut by an invisible scythe, crumbling into nothing. Without hesitation, Wang Lin moved toward the samsara tree. With a flick of his right hand, the souls circling around him instantly shot forward, devouring the tree. The samsara tree collapsed, and the 8-leaf spell curse master on it spat out a mouthful of blood, dying instantly. This process continued as Wang Lin, accompanied by the nascent stage soul and the billion soul banner, swept through the 5th layer. The 2 remaining spell curse masters were killed, their heads severed and their flesh refined, leaving only the skulls etched with symbols. Wang Lin held no affection for the immortal remnant clan. He moved at lightning speed, directly entering the 6th layer, where he acted like a vicious demon, killing any immortal remnant clan member he encountered. His goal was the samsara trees. In the 6th layer, there were still 3 samsara trees. Under the power of the nascent stage soul, the 3 healing individuals were swiftly killed. His momentum continued unabated as he moved through the 7th, 8th, and finally the 10th layer. In the 10th layer, the nascent stage soul dissipated, breaking into weak souls that flew into the billion soul banner, unable to be summoned again. Wang Lin stowed the banner away. He had carefully studied it during his journey. Although the nascent stage soul was powerful, its time was limited, and it could never truly compare to a genuine peak stage cultivator. Additionally, every time he condenses, it causes significant harm to the soul essence, requiring a long time to recover. This was also the reason why, back then, Dun Tian only condensed the soul to intimidate the enemy, rather than having the soul of ascension take action unless absolutely necessary. Along the way, including those from before, Wang Lin had killed a total of 19 eight-leaf spellcasters. These spellcasters had all been severely wounded before Wang Lin killed them. They all died unwillingly, and on every layer, there were unique defensive elements similar to those on the 6th layer. If Wang Lin hadn't had the soul of ascension, he would have been forced to stop on the 6th layer and could not have entered again. Even the Immortal Remnant clan had never imagined that a cultivator of the Ascension realm would invade their lair. After all, on Vermilion Bird Star, there were only 3 cultivators in the Ascension realm, excluding Yun Kazi. The Vermilion Bird Patriarch was on Vermilion Bird Mountain. Chu Yunfei had been forced to leave Vermilion Bird Star, and the one from the Earth Soul sect was severely injured and healing in a secret place. Without an Ascension realm cultivator, the defenses of the Immortal Ruins would have been absolutely flawless. From the 6th to the 10th layer, Wang Lin had made substantial gains. He didn't know what the skulls were for, but he certainly hadn't expected that the Immortal Remnant clan would store so many spirit stones. Logically speaking, the Immortal Remnant clan didn't seem to need spirit stones. They used rune power, absorbing demonic beasts to gather energy. The spiritual energy inside these stones was useless to them. Although spirit stones no longer held much value in Wang Lin's eyes, they were the currency among cultivators, so the more the better. Along the way, Wang Lin had scavenged a large amount of spirit stones. Even a sect in a 4th grade cultivation nation would find these enough to last them for 1,000 years. However, compared to these spirit stones, the skulls of the 8-leaf spellcasters from the Immortal Remnant clan intrigued Wang Lin more. Although he didn't know their exact purpose, each skull bore unique symbols, and the aura emanating from them was almost identical to that of a nascent soul cultivator. Wang Lin had a strong feeling that these skulls were no ordinary items, and their value far surpassed that of the spirit stones. His intuition was spot on. On Destiny Star, the essence of power from practitioners of such a distinct energy system was incredibly valuable. The skulls held the essence of the Immortal Remnant clan's power. There was a secret technique that could extract the runic power from the skulls, unlocking the power within. If he could obtain the skull of a 9-leaf spellcaster, its value would be immense. In the vast starry sky, there were planets where native beings possessed unique powers, entirely different from those of cultivators. These natives had caught the attention of the Cultivation Alliance. Instead of destroying these beings, they chose to raise them in a controlled environment, generation after generation, before killing them off. This way, they could harvest endless power essence. Naturally, to keep these other races in captivity, they needed to provide them with food. Wang Lin now had 19 skulls. After collecting them, he gazed at the entrance to the 11th layer, hesitating. He didn't know how many layers the Immortal Ruins had, but if it weren't for the Soul of Ascension, he wouldn't have been able to enter this far. Facing the 11th layer, he was uncertain. However, standing there, he felt something strange, like something in the 11th layer was calling to him. A cold smile spread across his face as his eyes flashed. He didn't rush to descend but instead set up a formation on the ground. This formation was a small teleportation array, one that he had obtained from Dun Tian before his battle with the giant demon ancestor, recorded on a jade slip. With ease, he set up the formation and placed an immortal jade in it. Wang Lin then looked toward the entrance of the 11th layer. Inside, it was pitch black, emitting waves of black smoke, which set it apart from the previous layers. Wang Lin held his immortal sword in his right hand, gathering spiritual energy, and leaped forward, diving into the opening. The cave wasn't deep, and before long, Wang Lin broke through it and entered the 11th layer. The moment he stepped into this layer, his expression immediately turned strange. The 11th layer wasn't large. The ground had been carved with deep grooves, which connected to form a bizarre symbol. Red liquid flowed through these grooves, and before Wang Lin's eyes, the symbol appeared blood red. At the same time, a chilling aura rose from the ground. Clearly, this was a place of coldness and death. At the center of the symbol floated a completely naked woman. Her hair moved without wind, giving off an eerie, otherworldly vibe. The woman's figure was curvaceous, perfect in every way. Her body was pure white, with no runic markings, except for a 9-leaf plant glowing on her forehead. The woman's beauty was striking. In Wang Lin's life, only the immortal corpse and Lume had rivaled her. Although Wang Lin had never seen this woman before, he inexplicably felt a sense of familiarity when gazing at her corpse. Above the woman, an open painting scroll hung, within which 9 crystal radiances flickered, swirling around to form a circular pattern. A wisp of black mist emerged from the painting scroll and entered the woman's forehead. The moment Wang Lin saw the scroll, his heart jolted. This painting scroll was incredibly familiar to him, identical to the one in his storage pouch, an artifact that he could never fully control. At that moment, the blood-red symbols on the ground suddenly flashed with a crimson glow. The woman, floating in midair, slightly fluttered her eyelashes, then slowly opened her eyes. Her eyes were bright, with a trace of ghostly light, captivating and mesmerizing. It seemed as if there was a mysterious gleam in her gaze, making anyone who looked into them feel a sense of confusion rising in their hearts. The instant Wang Lin locked eyes with her, his mind shook violently. He finally realized why he felt so familiar with her. The immortal sword in Wang Lin's hand suddenly rang out with a series of sword cries. Su Ligua, the sword's spirit, manifested and stared intently at the woman, muttering to himself, "Fair lady. Thank you for sending me the remnant soul of the artistic conception I formed when I transformed into a cultivator years ago." Su Ligua gazed fixedly at the woman, his body moved, detaching from the sword and flying toward her. "Fair lady, don't be afraid. Your Su brother is here." The woman gave a faint smile, her eyes glowing with an eerie light. She raised her delicate hand and gently pointed forward, placing her finger on Su Ligua's forehead. At the moment her finger touched him, Su Ligua's lips curled into a sneer. His body flickered and vanished, replaced by a streak of sword light, whistling toward her. "Vile woman, your Su grandfather has already been tricked once. He won't fall for it again." The woman's smile widened. As the sword light came toward her, she gently exhaled a breath. The sword light collapsed and vanished the instant it touched her breath. This scene caused Su Ligua to tremble in shock. In a flash, he returned to Wang Lin's side, diving back into the immortal sword. "Who are you?" Wang Lin asked in a deep voice. The woman gazed at Wang Lin and softly replied, "Back in my days as a cultivator, they called me the Enchantress. In the Immortal Remnant clan, I am the 3rd ancestor." Wang Lin's eyes flashed. Slowly, he said, "So you are the 3rd ancestor. I apologize for intruding on your territory. I shall take my leave now." With that, he began to step back. The woman's eyes shimmered with a playful glint. She chuckled, "Don't call me the 3rd ancestor. I like being called Enchantress. Now that you've come here, you can leave, but only if you behave." With a graceful motion, she pointed forward with her jade-like hand. In an instant, the entrance to the 10th layer reappeared and sealed off completely, vanishing from sight. Wang Lin's brow furrowed as he coldly stared at the woman. "What do you mean by this, senior?" The woman covered her mouth with her hand, her eyes filled with a flirtatious gleam as she softly laughed. "What do I mean? I simply wanted you to experience the beauty of life. I can smell a pure fragrance on you. I imagine you haven't yet indulged in women. Today, I shall benefit from you." A cold glint flashed in Wang Lin's eyes as he replied flatly, "You can appear here only because you're heavily injured. 3rd ancestor, do you recognize this?" He waved his hand and a billion soul banner appeared in his grasp. With a flick, it emitted a series of eerie and mournful screams. The sound pierced through the soul, reaching deep into the essence of the spirit. The woman's eyes flashed as she stared at the soul banner in Wang Lin's hand. Speaking slowly, "Billion soul banner." Wang Lin tapped his immortal sword with his left hand, and a surge of immortal energy flowed into the blade. Immediately, the sword flickered with a white glow. Wang Lin swung it down, cleaving the ground with a mighty strike. With a thunderous crash, a deep trench was carved into the earth. "I only used 10% of my immortal energy in that strike," Wang Lin said, looking at the woman. "An immortal treasure." The woman's eyes turned cold. "Do you really think that with just these 2 treasures, you can kill me? If you were at your peak, I wouldn't have any confidence. But now, I am certain that you are severely wounded. Senior, don't force me. This will be harmful to both of us. I'll take my leave now, and you can continue healing. I'll leave the Immortal Remnant land." Wang Lin spoke calmly. Facing this woman, he had no confidence whatsoever. After all, she was a being on par with the old monsters of the immortal realm. Even if injured, she would still have certain divine abilities. Unlike those 8-leaf spell curse masters, Wang Lin could easily kill them in their wounded state with his supreme soul. The woman smiled faintly, her gaze turning almost like that of a lover. She laughed playfully. I haven't made things difficult for you. I just wanted to share a brief moment with you. Why are you pushing me away? Besides, there are a total of 19 layers in the Immortal Remnant land. After passing my layer, the layers below hold the secrets of my Immortal Remnant clan's power, and even the remnant soul of the first clan leader is guarding it. Since you have the billion soul banner, don't you want to collect the ancestor's remnant soul? Wang Lin stared at her, his tone icy as he spoke. I'll give you 3 breaths of time to decide, fight or leave. The choice is yours. The woman let out a soft sigh, extending her right hand to the empty space. The previously vanished exit suddenly reappeared. Since you don't want to get close to me, then I have no choice but to make you leave. However, you must leave behind that fragment of my remnant soul of artistic conception. Wang Lin stepped back and calmly said, before I leave the immortal ruins, I will release her. With your divine abilities, it should be easy for you to retrieve her. As he spoke, Wang Lin moved, charging toward the exit like lightning. A cold glint flashed in the woman's eyes, and a mocking smile curled on her lips as she thought to herself, let's see how you willingly fall into my trap. However, her smile suddenly froze. Just as Wang Lin was about to reach the exit, his body abruptly halted midair. He didn't enter the exit but instead formed a seal with both hands. Spiritual energy swirled around him, and in the blink of an eye, a formation emitting white light appeared beneath his feet. He vanished without a trace. When he reappeared, Wang Lin found himself within the teleportation array he had previously set up on the 10th layer. Without hesitation, he continued to speed off. Such a cautious little cultivator. How delightful, the woman murmured, a wicked gleam in her eyes. If I absorb him, I should be able to restore some of my rune power. If he had attacked just now, it would have been troublesome. If this place were destroyed, I might have had to kill him. That would have been a waste. But now that he's leaving, I can freely capture him and enjoy him. The person my sister is interested in won't escape. She pointed to the painting scroll above her head and whispered, bring him back to me. As soon as her words were spoken, the painting scroll above her head folded and vanished with a flash. A little brat in the infant metamorphosis stage, and yet he hasn't fully indulged in pleasure. The woman's gaze became even more lecherous as she touched her lips. She murmured softly, little one, come back soon. Big sister is starting to grow impatient. Wang Lin sped ahead, his divine sense spread out, remaining cautious. He didn't believe the woman would let him go so easily. His speed was fast, and within moments, he returned to the 2nd layer. Seeing the entrance to the 1st layer ahead, Wang Lin was about to teleport when suddenly his expression changed. He quickly slashed his immortal sword behind him. With a sizzling sound, the sword light struck the empty space behind him. In the blink of an eye, the painting scroll that had been hovering above the woman's head appeared as a shadow in the void. Wang Lin's face darkened as he glared at the scroll. The scroll emitted a strange black glow, and as it flickered, it slowly unfurled, revealing a black canvas with 10 purple light dots forming a circle. These light dots radiated an unusual power and suddenly shifted. In an instant, a serpent-shaped rune shot out from the 10 light points, and in the blink of an eye, it detached from the scroll, transforming into a giant flood dragon, nearly 1,000 feet long, its form twisted and terrifying. The dragon's aura was almost comparable to that of a wild beast. It let out a roar before lunging at Wang Lin with its enormous mouth open. The serpent-shaped rune flickered on the dragon's forehead. Wang Lin swung his immortal sword, but the sword light passed right through the dragon as if it weren't a solid entity. Could it be that spiritual energy has no effect on it? Wang Lin's heart sank. The dragon roared, releasing a nauseating stench as it charged toward Wang Lin. He formed a seal with both hands, and an impenetrable restriction immediately formed. It glowed white and slammed into the dragon's mouth, preventing it from opening further. With a loud boom, the dragon winced in pain, its body shrinking as the white restriction formed a giant net over its mouth, holding it shut. The dragon growled, suddenly charging forward like lightning, crashing into Wang Lin. Wang Lin's gaze flickered. He raised his immortal sword to block, but the dragon's impact sent him flying backward. He used the momentum to propel himself toward the 1st layer entrance, disappearing in a flash. At that moment, the 10 purple light points on the painting scroll turned once more. This time, a tiger-shaped rune flickered and transformed into a giant black tiger, its body 100 feet in size. The tiger's claws swiped through the dragon's restriction, shattering it immediately. The dragon and tiger roared in unison, rushing toward the first layer. Behind them, the painting scroll, glowing with an eerie light, floated toward them. As Wang Lin arrived at the first layer, the dragon and tiger were right behind him. Such a trivial artifact, thinking it can trap me, underestimates me. Wang Lin's eyes glinted coldly. He slapped his storage pouch, and in an instant, an object appeared in his hand. It was the very same painting scroll he had been unable to control. Seeing another artifact identical to it, Wang Lin's mind clicked. He took it out, determined to give it a try. The moment this item appeared, the relentless flood dragon and fierce tiger immediately froze in place, not daring to advance any further. They remained 100 feet away, continuously roaring, their eyes filled with suspicion. Li Yuanfeng's gaze flickered, and with a tug of the painting scroll, it instantly unfurled. Inside the scroll, amidst a sea of black, there was only a single purple star-like dot. As the scroll opened, the flood dragon and fierce tiger instantly stopped their roars, staring intently at the scroll with strange light in their eyes. At this moment, behind them, a second painting scroll appeared, also with 10 purple light dots. The scene before them felt rather eerie. The two identical-looking scrolls were separated by several hundred feet, with the flood dragon and fierce tiger positioned between them. The two demonic beasts briefly shook their heads and glanced at each of the scrolls, their eyes full of confusion. In the 11th layer, the third ancestor's face drastically changed. The Talisman Beast Atlas. How does this person possess a treasure of my immortal remnant clan? Could it be that one of our ancestors was lost outside back then? The woman's gaze flickered, and she softly uttered, "Retrieve." As the word left her lips, the scroll with the 10 purple light dots trembled violently. The flood dragon and fierce tiger immediately transformed into two flashing runes of black light and, with a movement, flew toward the scroll. At that moment, the purple light dot within the single purple screen scroll suddenly flashed, and from the scroll emerged a woman's figure. Her face was indistinct, only a blurry silhouette could be seen.